Albert Einstein was not merely a scientist, he was a philosopher of the cosmos. A man whose mind stretched across galaxies, yet whose heart beat with the quiet rhythm of a violin. He gazed into the mysteries of time and space not as a cold mathematician, but as a seeker of truth, a poet of reality itself. When Einstein looked at the stars, he didn't see burning gases, he saw questions. He saw the trembling beauty of existence and wondered why there was something rather than nothing. That wonder became his compass. And through that compass, he changed not just physics, but the human way of seeing the universe. Born in 1879 in Ulm, Germany, Einstein was an unlikely prodigy. As a child, he spoke late, daydreamed often, and detested rigid schooling. His teachers thought he was slow, but his mind was simply wandering in a different dimension. One day, when he was 5, his father showed him a compass. Einstein was mesmerized. The invisible pull of the needle sparked an eternal question: what unseen forces shape the world? That single moment became a symbol of his life, the beginning of a lifelong quest to uncover the hidden harmony of the universe. He grew up in an age when science worshipped certainty. The world was neatly divided between space and time, cause and effect, matter and energy. But young Einstein couldn't accept such rigid divisions. He sensed that nature was not a collection of separate pieces but a living, unified whole. He once said, "The most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible." To him, the beauty of existence lay in its order, a mysterious, divine logic that could be felt even before it was understood. When Einstein became a young physicist, he worked not in laboratories but in silence, in his mind. While clerking at a patent office in Bern, he spent his days reviewing other people's inventions and his nights inventing new realities. In 1905, a year now called his Annus Mirabilis, his miraculous year, he published 4 papers that reshaped the world. He proved that light behaved as both wave and particle, revealed that atoms existed, explained the motion of molecules, and, most famously, introduced the world to special relativity, showing that time and space were not fixed, but relative, woven together in a cosmic fabric that bends with motion. This was not just a scientific revolution, it was a philosophical earthquake. Time, once thought to be an unchanging background, became a participant in the drama of the universe. Einstein had done more than shift equations, he had shifted perspective. He taught humanity that even our most sacred intuitions about time, motion, and truth were relative to the observer. In his universe, reality was not a rigid structure but a dance between perception and being. Years later, he extended this insight into his general theory of relativity, revealing that gravity was not an invisible force pulling on masses, but the curvature of space-time itself. Mass bends space, and space tells mass how to move. Planets, stars, and galaxies were no longer actors following a script, they were the script. The universe had no stage, it was the stage and the story combined. Einstein's philosophy was deeply human. He rejected the idea that science should strip the world of wonder. Instead, he believed science should restore wonder, to reveal that the universe, though explainable, is not exhausted by explanation. He said, "He who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe is as good as dead, his eyes are closed." For Einstein, wonder was not childish curiosity, it was the foundation of wisdom. And yet, for all his brilliance, Einstein was a man of humility. He saw himself as a child picking up shells on the shore of an infinite ocean of mystery. While others worshipped him as a genius, he rejected the label. "I have no special talents," he said, "I am only passionately curious." That curiosity became his greatest gift, a rebellion against intellectual arrogance. He believed that the pursuit of knowledge was not about control, but communion, a dialogue between the mind and the mystery it seeks to understand. Einstein was also a moral philosopher. Behind his scientific discoveries was a deep concern for humanity. He lived through 2 world wars, witnessed the rise of nationalism and the horror of the atomic bomb, a weapon born partly from his own theories. His letter to President Roosevelt, urging research into nuclear fission, helped launch the Manhattan Project, but he would later regret it deeply. He said, "Had I known that they would do this, I would have burned my formula." For him, science without conscience was death disguised as progress. He spent the rest of his life warning against blind technological power, calling instead for compassion, peace, and global unity. To Einstein, ethics was not a set of rules but an extension of cosmic order. He once said, "Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty." He saw moral evolution as a continuation of the same cosmic intelligence that shaped the stars, a process of consciousness awakening to unity. His spirituality was subtle but profound. Einstein did not believe in a personal God who intervenes in human affairs, but neither was he an atheist. He spoke of a cosmic religious feeling, a deep sense of awe before the rational beauty of the universe. When asked if he believed in God, he replied, "I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the lawful harmony of all that exists." For him, God was not a being, but a beingness, the order, the elegance, the music of existence. Einstein's philosophy of wonder had no borders. He drew wisdom from Buddha, Spinoza, and even the Stoics. He admired simplicity as the highest form of sophistication. His clothes were plain, his habits humble, his joy often found in playing the violin or sailing quietly on a lake. Beneath the hair and the equations was a man who never stopped asking childlike questions, a seeker who never lost the innocence of astonishment. He once wrote, "The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing." That sentence captures the essence of his soul. Einstein saw curiosity as sacred, a flame that lights the path between ignorance and insight. To him, the pursuit of truth was not about reaching an end, but about deepening the journey. Every answer opened a new question, every discovery led to deeper mystery. In that infinite unfolding, he found joy. But Einstein's genius also came with loneliness. The more he understood the universe, the more he felt the isolation of being misunderstood by it. As the scientific world moved toward quantum mechanics, he resisted. The randomness of the quantum world violated his sense of cosmic order. God does not play dice with the universe, he declared. Yet, the universe seemed to insist otherwise. The irony of Einstein's later years was that the man who revolutionized reality could not fully accept its apparent chaos. Still, even in disagreement, his refusal to settle for incompleteness revealed his devotion to truth, a devotion that transcended ego. Einstein's later writings were filled with reflections on freedom, morality, and meaning. He warned against materialism and nationalism, calling them infantile diseases of humanity. He believed that science, art, and ethics were not separate domains, but expressions of the same human spirit, a spirit that seeks order, beauty, and connection. "The most beautiful thing we can experience," he said, "is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and all science." That mystery, for Einstein, was the divine pulse of reality itself. He also believed that education should not create specialists but whole humans. He said, "It is essential that the student acquire an understanding of and a lively feeling for values. He must acquire a vivid sense of the beautiful and of the morally good." For him, knowledge without empathy was sterile, and intellect without imagination was blind. Einstein's philosophy was not confined to theories, it was lived experience. He embodied the paradox of wisdom, a man of infinite intellect and childlike wonder, of immense power and deep humility. He laughed often, loved deeply, and valued kindness above achievement. When asked how to raise intelligent children, he answered, "If you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. If you want them to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales." That advice carries his timeless insight: imagination is the seed of truth. When he died in 1955, Einstein left behind not just scientific papers, but a legacy of thought that transcends centuries. His image, the wild hair, the distant eyes, became a symbol of genius. But behind that image was a deeper message, that wonder is wisdom, that humility is power, and that the mind and heart must evolve together. He reminded humanity that knowledge is sacred only when guided by love. Albert Einstein showed us that to understand the universe, we must not only measure it but feel it. To see time bend and light curve is to glimpse the poetry of existence, a cosmic dance in which we all participate. His equations describe the structure of reality, but his life describes its soul. Through him, we learn that truth and beauty are not opposites, but reflections of the same light, that science and spirituality, reason and wonder, belong to the same quest. In the end, Einstein was not just the philosopher of relativity. He was the philosopher of relationality, the belief that everything is connected, that meaning arises in relation, not isolation. His life invites us to look at the stars not as distant fire, but as mirrors reflecting the infinite within us. He taught us that the universe is not a cold machine but a living mystery, whispering, "You are part of this wonder too." So perhaps the greatest lesson of Einstein's life is not E equals mc squared, but the realization behind it, that energy, matter, and consciousness are one continuum of being. That love, curiosity, and imagination are the forces that hold our inner universe together, just as gravity holds the stars. Einstein once said, "There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, the other is as though everything is." Between those two ways lies the story of humanity. And Einstein chose the latter, to live as though everything is a miracle. That is why his mind reached beyond equations, into the eternal wonder of existence itself.